Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back to the show. We are talking today with our life coach in regards to the work she does. And as an author, as a coach, as a mother, she's here guiding people in so many different ways. Today, we might dive into a little bit about passion, what that is, and maybe why it's not enough. But as our Burn Through Catalyst speaker joins us here again, we want to welcome her back and, of course, help you along your way and your journey with success. That's what she's here to do. Diana, how are you today?
I am doing fabulous. And, I didn't even think about how this week is Valentine's week. And I was like, oh my God, how funny that I chose to talk about passion this week. It's so funny.
Yeah, I honestly thought that's why you chose it. But all right, yeah, it is Valentine's. We're talking passion, we're talking love, but we all want certain things. Grass is greener, but what is passion? What is love? We got to be careful. And you're here to guide us along our way. Would you mind just introducing yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, as a life coach, I really love helping high-performing women who find themselves in a form of transition where they're realizing that they still have these huge goals and dreams for their business or their career, but it might feel like their personal life is at odds. So it's like their life on the outside professionally looks amazing, but on the inside, whether it's their mental health, their emotional health, their physical health, maybe even their relationships, or just their overall fulfillment, something is missing, something is off, and I help them to get everything into alignment so that they can have that personal inside feeling of success that really allows for the external success to amplify and to be even bigger and all the more satisfying.
Thank you so much. Well, I appreciate you're here joining us. And as an author, as a coach, you have many years of experience, let alone our own experiences, which really can guide us along the way. But just have to point that out. You're certified as a life coach, and you're going to guide us today through this whole topic of conversation, which anyone can benefit from. So, passion isn't enough. All right, I got to start off with the basic though. What really is passion?
What really is passion? Passion is like this internal fire. It's like it's like this fuel that can take us farther and faster than where we thought we could go on alone. And Simon Sinek, he famously said, working hard for something that we don't care about is called stress, but working hard for something that we love is called passion.
Ah,
And I think that sounds really inspiring, but any woman who's balanced a career, a family, and her own dreams knows deep inside that's actually absolute bullshit.
love you. Yes. Yes, it is. Uh-huh.
Yeah, because what are you trying to say that it's not stressful to love to care for your family? You're saying that I don't love my family, because it can be, you can experience stress and be working hard for something that you love.
I
And I
agree.
think that women know that better than men do, maybe, especially moms. So I want to talk about that because I really do believe you can love your work, your family, your goals, your relationships, and you can still feel completely drained at the end of the day.
Thank you for letting us know that's okay. Yes, it is. I'm with you 100% as a mom, as a worker. Yes, you are correct. There's stress involved, passion involved. A lot goes into it, and it's okay to have mixed feelings and emotions because nothing in life is perfect, as we've all learned and we've talked about many a times. All right, so let's continue this passion because sometimes you say it fuels us in a sense, but it also can blind us.
Yeah, so I just want to share like a little story about myself, right? When I worked as
Sure.
a chef, passion blinded me. It fueled me, but it also blinded me. And ultimately, what happened there was, like I loved cooking so much. I loved serving other people, feeding other people, teaching other people. I loved it so much. It was so rewarding and fulfilling that it caused me to ignore the red flags. You see, like I was saying, passion is this fire. It's like a rocket fuel, but it can also send us crashing down if we're not careful. Like And that was kind of what happened to me, like I was ignoring all these signals, these red flags from my body that something was wrong. So when I developed de Quervain's disease, when I developed bone spurs and I was having trouble walking and I was having low back pain and breaking out in hives, I ignored it all because I still loved what I was doing. And so that's those are ways that passion can blind us, right? And I think that it's almost like passion puts these rose-colored glasses on us. We can be so focused on the love, on the goal, on the good things that we miss out on the red flags that are screaming at us that something is wrong. Yeah, like sometimes we love what we do. We love the people in our lives. We love our family. And so we ignore those warning signs and we mistake it, especially in personal development. We often will call it dedication, right? We call it, we call it like never give up, but our body is calling it exhaustion. Like just like if you're to think of it like rocket fuel that just continually burns through the engine will destroy it. It's not meant to be on fire all the time,
Yeah.
because that physical mechanism simply can't take that, and we have to recognize that our bodies can't always take that, and it's almost like self-abusive when we allow ourselves to just stick through it just because we love it. I mean, and it's sad because I lost my career in the kitchen as a result
Yeah.
because I love that rush of the adrenaline, the creativity, and that passion ultimately blinded me. The late nights that turned into exhaustion, the excitement morphing into burnout. Like I just kept pushing because I loved it. I thought that my love for cooking could carry me through, and then all of a sudden one day, it was like I hit a wall so hard. I woke up in a hotel room in Washington, D.C. on the day I was opening 9 restaurants in 2 states on the same day. My hair's falling out. And that was the day I just stopped ignoring it. I couldn't ignore that something was going on with me. So, I just invite you as you're listening, think about what red flags you're ignoring because of love, because of passion. Like, where are you pushing past your limits, thinking that that's always a good thing, and maybe not considering that you know that you could actually be destroying yourself in the process. So
Yeah.
just let's take our blinders off for a second and look at, like, where do we see some red flags, where do we see some indicators that we're pushing too hard for love, for passion, and where do we need to kind of look and take a step back and say, like, yes, I love this. Yes, I'm passionate, but I want this passion and the love to burn for the long term. And sometimes that means a lower intensity, just if we're going to keep it consistent.
Got it. Wow. That's when you say passion doesn't justify overwork. You're right. And you know what? You can be passionate about a few different things. And sometimes being passionate about just one thing like work is going to burn you out. What about your family? What about your self-care? What about, although those things are important too. And yeah, you're overlooking a lot sometimes if you strictly focus on one passion. Not saying you can't be passionate about your work or about whatever it is, but yeah, there's definitely problems with someone who's too passionate about something. I had a friend who worked. Next thing you know, like overly worked, would never be home for his family, his children. His wife finally got fed up, and after 7 years, left him. And now he's wishing he didn't work so hard. He didn't work so much. He didn't realize, I really didn't have to work that hard. I own the company. I want things perfect. I want things, but he learned a hard lesson. His wife left him and devastated him. And now he's got a whole new perspective on life because he will never make that mistake again. And there's only so much you could do. That she never would forgive him for it. And she moved on and is with someone else. But I'll never forget that. It was like, hello, yeah, we told you this, but you can't just tell someone. You have to, they have to understand. So that is a great, great topic today. Yeah. Hmm.
And I mean, it's up to us whether we listen to the whispers or we wait for the screams, right? Because I bet that wife of your friends, it wasn't like it just all of a sudden ended in divorce. that happened through years and years of neglect and ignoring. And he may have loved his business and his wife, but there may just not have been the balance that he needed. Um, and I think that that's what we're really looking for is like, how do we create this healthy balance of within the passions or the things that we love? And a lot of times we've talked about this before, Jill, but like when I talk about pizza with people, right? Like one of the things that I would see when I would teach people how to make pizza all the time was a lot of people tend to want to like fill up the pizza with tons and tons of toppings. They love the pepperoni, they love the
I like the
sausage, they
cheese,
love
but go
the
ahead.
bell peppers. Yeah, I know you're a cheese girl, which I love. But so many people love to like load on the toppings, all the things that they love, and they don't necessarily realize that there's actually got to be a balance. There has to be, you gotta respect the structure, right? And the structure is our body. The structure is the real life constraints that the world gives us, right? There's only so many hours in a day. There's only so much time. There's only so much energy that we have at a single point. And we need to respect that. We need to work within those constraints, but at the same time, it's not like it's not like once we put certain things on the pizza that's the only thing that we can only like ever have. Like I like to think of there could be a pizza a day, so like maybe there's one
Yes.
day there's like, you're focused on the passion of your family, right? Or like the passion of your relationship or your kids. And then there could be another day where the passion is into your business and that could be the focus. And I mean, you can have as many pizzas in this example as you wish, but
Yeah.
you got to realize that within that there are limits,
Yep.
and you got to strike a balance. And what I find a lot of times people do instead is they use passion to justify their overwork or their like they're loading on of the toppings, right? And I think that we've been conditioned to believe that if we love something, we should be willing to just like have tons of it, right?
And
Almost
more
like
is better, more is
buffer.
better. Not always the
Yeah,
case. Yep. Sometimes
yeah,
less is more. I've heard that saying, right? Yeah, it makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah. Exactly. Like sometimes it's all about having less. And
Hmm.
sometimes I think that with love, especially love, we can sometimes equate with like pain or
Hmm.
suffering. And I think that we got to look at, is this really love or is it just self-sacrifice? Because passion is this really powerful thing. It pushes us beyond our limits, and that is a good thing at times. But we've got to look at the overall cost as well, right? It's not, if we look at it like a fire, we need balance to fire. It can't just be fire or else everything burns down.
Yeah.
So we've got to balance it with something else. So we got to look at, is the success that we're chasing, like in the example of your friend, is it worth it if every other space in our life is running on empty? And I would bet that it's not, a lot of times people will say things, especially parents will say things like, I would die for my kids. But are we actually willing to thrive for them? Like
Yeah.
overworking is not noble. When we
Yeah.
do that, what we're really doing is modeling burnout for our kids, for the next generation. We're showing them that this is what success costs. And if we want to teach them something different, we've got to be willing to look into our own lives and create the change now, because what we do today has a huge ripple effect on our families, on the people that we lead, on our teams. And so, as managers, like you mentioned, this guy was the owner. You're modeling burnout, maybe not just even for your family, but for your employees
Your
and
team, your
other people.
staff. Absolutely.
And there's a long term cost to that. And it's not necessarily worth the short-term gain.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing this. And also, Dan, I know kind of what we were just talking about, it's like about boundaries too, right? Could you share a little bit about the whole passion without boundaries will break you? That's really what we've been talking about. But just to elaborate on that, right? So we're talking about boundaries and how important they are, correct?
Yes, yeah. Boundaries are so important. And in past episodes that we've talked about, Jill, like I've shared that a boundary doesn't necessarily have to be a wall. It doesn't have to be something, like sometimes we think that if we're saying no to something, that must mean we're saying no to all these different things, right? Or if we're saying yes to one thing, that means no to everything else. And I think that there's space for us to look for collaborative solutions instead of just it being like a hard no, or I can't have any of this, right? Like it doesn't have to be so extreme. Um, but I do find that a lot of times in personal development, we're conditioned to say yes to the things that we want. And I find that saying yes without boundaries is not growth, it's actually self-abandonment.
Yeah. Wow. Great enlightening conversation. And if you're out there listening today, think about it. Think about the work you're doing. Are you sacrificing? I mean, yeah, you got to sacrifice for your family, but there's other things too. It's not just about, work, but if you're overworking too hard, what about your body? Like, what about your health? People stressing out over the job because they're working, like 60-hour weeks, and what is that doing to their health and their insides? And there's so many other things that you just don't think about, right? You really, unfortunately, don't. So, what would you suggest to someone out there who may be, listening today and they are workaholic? Let's just use that for example right now. So passionate about work. What advice could you give them that could possibly change their day, or at least a little at a time, make a little change for the next day?
Yeah, it's so interesting. I love that you use the term workaholic because it's a play on the word alcoholic, right? Or it points to some
Yeah.
form of addiction, and yet it's also something that we glorify, right? It's something like people who are workaholics, and I know because I used to identify as
Used
one
to be
myself.
one.
Yeah,
Ditto.
there's like a badge of honor about, oh my God, I'm so dedicated to my work. I'm always so busy. And the truth is that like that busyness and that work is actually an addiction. It's something where we're so uncomfortable with silence. We're so uncomfortable with just literally sitting back. Like that tells us something, right? So I remember like I used to if I had a vacation, I'd like plan out every single day. There'd be like multiple activities. There was no space to like breathe or to relax because for me, busyness meant productivity. Busyness meant like goodness, right? And I think that when we're workaholics, I think that there's time for us to really explore, is this serving us? Where is work costing us elsewhere, where maybe work is costing you in your health? Maybe you're like me where you're having your health force you to take time off because you need to go to all these different doctor's appointments because something's going wrong and you don't know what is. Or maybe you're forced to pay attention to your marriage or forced to pay attention to your family because your marriage is falling apart and now you have to go to divorce court and do all these, talk to your divorce lawyer and all these different things. I don't know what that situation looks like for somebody, but oftentimes, like I was saying, for those of us who have this success professionally, sometimes it's coming at the cost of our personal life. It's coming at the cost of other things that matter. Like if it came down to it, your job could replace you. Like I remember when I was working at this place where I, I opened 9 restaurants in 2 states in the same day. Um, I was replaceable. Like when I left, they replaced me. It took them 4 people to replace me, but they were able to replace me.
And
And there
that's
were
it.
places where I wasn't replaceable, right? There are places where you're not replaceable, and those include in your family. Those include like your own health. There are places where like your focus truly matters. And when we have this workaholic tendency, I think that, yes, it feels really wonderful, like especially because there's all these external accolades, like other people seem to think that we're doing great. But oftentimes, like again, that internal cost, it's really not worth it. And I'm not saying at the same time, I'm not saying that like you need to give all that up. Because what I've found, and I think this is something that again, when we look at these dichotomies of like, oh, well, if I'm not working like crazy, then like that must mean I'm lazy, for example, or I'm doing nothing. I've found that I've only achieved more success since I discovered how to rest strategically and how to not how to balance this tendency to work and this love for work with a more healthy balance for my own well-being and my health and for my family. Because so like with my little daughter, right? So she's under 2. And there are all these times or places where I I know that a lot of moms go through burnout, right? And so
Yeah.
because of my past experiences with burnout, I'm really intentional about how I approach situations with her. And I do it solo, right? I'm a single mom. So there are times, like she's come into the terrible twos. There are times where like she really tests me, and my
Yeah.
patience. And it's hard to like um it's hard to just stay patient with her or to act and respond to her the way that I want to when she's like, she's in the middle of potty training. So it's like, there's like maybe poop or pee on the floor, and then she's like running through it, and I'm like trying to get out the door. This was like yesterday pretty much.
I
And
get it.
I think in those moments it's about like resetting and really thinking about, like who do I want to be? How do I want to handle this? And sometimes it means I need to take a break and I need to walk away from her. And when I noticed that those like small feelings, right? We talked a little bit about like the difference between the whispers and the screams. When I noticed those small whispers of irritation coming up, that's when I take a break. I don't wait until I'm ready to scream. I take a break. I take a 1 minute break, like even if it means I got to put her in her crib for a minute and just walk out of the room. So, she
Mhm.
might be screaming and freaking out, but if I need a minute just to like reset, that's what I take. And sometimes it's hard, like because we're told also like, oh, you got to put your kids first, like your kid, you got to take care of all their things. But if you're not taking care of yourself first and your needs, we're not able to take care of our kids properly. So I'll give myself that time. And that is not something that feels normal to me. It still sometimes feels uncomfortable. I can sometimes feel guilty about leaving my daughter for a moment to cry, but like it's really what's best for both of us. She
Wow.
needs a mom who's present more than she needs a mom who's like angry and exhausted. And if I'm showing her like, I push through my exhaustion and my anger, I'm setting that example for her. So I think
Yeah.
that when we look at like workaholism and we look at it more as addiction and we look at um, just these opportunities in our day-to-day life to stop and to reset and to take the small break before you need the like 2, 3, 4 week, 6 month kind of breaks because you didn't pay attention to your health or you didn't pay attention to your marriage or to your family. Um, I just think that it's worth it to take the little breaks over the big ones.
Got it. And I just got to bring something up because I read about it few weeks ago, and I'm not into politics, but President Trump's daughter, Ivanka, she actually, talked about how she's not going to be a part of this administration this time. She talked about the toll that all the work took upon her. She missed her important outings with her children and like school events. And she says, I cannot do that to my children this time. She's like, politics really isn't for me. Like she tried it, right? Do you remember the last administration? She was there hands on, her and her husband. I don't even know their titles, but they were living in the White House working. And after, those years went by and then the time off, obviously, she realized she would never, ever do it again. She was so passionate about getting into politics and then realized, wait, there's no time for my family. So I'm just thinking of another mother out there who, can relate to us and relate to the story about how, yeah, being passionate is great, but sometimes too passionate about one thing can affect things. Did you hear about that in the news? Or I don't know if you follow her, if you are aware, of this story at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah, and what you're sharing about Ivanka, it reminds me too of something that Shonda Rhimes shared at a
Oh,
speech one time, where she was talking about how when you see me successful in my career, by nature I'm failing in my family. So if you see me at this like season premiere celebrating getting this award, it by nature means that I'm missing out on bath time or I'm missing out on seeing my kids recital or those sort of things. And so this notion that we can, like that like we can have it all, it's not realistic. It's like it comes at a cost. And both things, when they matter so much to us, we just need to be intentional and strategic about when we're going to put more focus in one thing and when we're going to put more focus in the other. But if it's all work, all work, all work, and we're not putting enough into our family or into our health, oftentimes there are those
Yep.
little whispers that tell us early on that we can pay attention to, so we can address that before it becomes a bigger issue.
Beautiful.
And that's I think where the power of boundaries really comes in, right? Stepping away from the thing that has our focus, even if it means that things drop for a minute.
Got it.
Knowing that we're going to be able to come back more refreshed, more invigorated, because when we let that fire go for a second, we're able to conserve some more fuel for it to really burn long term.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for being here, for joining us, and always appreciate the conversation. Thanks again. Would you mind sharing how we can contact you, Diana?
Yeah, so you can find my website at savorlifewithdiana.com. That's a great place to set up a free consultation. We can talk a little bit just about, like this personal balance for you between your work, between your personal life, and how it is that you can really thrive in both. And you can also find out more information, get some inspiration on social media. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, Diana Bejasa Speaks. So Diana Bejasa Speaks.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure having you. Enjoy the day and great conversation, and happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Enjoy the passion. Thank you so much. Bye bye, honey.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.